when we're talking about the concierge level customer service, we're talking about something that only goes to your A platinum accounts.
That's right.
Because nobody else is providing the funding that makes that possible. And people often ask, okay, well, how do I get started on this? What is it what's the end state of this? What am I going to have if I put this together, and how do I go about doing it?
Well, the idea is that you've got at least 2 dedicated concierge customer service representatives. So when that high-level, high-efficiency or high-leverage account calls in, they're going to get to somebody immediately. They're not going to get the runaround. They're going to know that the person on the other end of the phone is going to take ownership of their problem. They're going to solve them for it. They may not be able to solve it immediately, but they need to keep them apprised of every step of the process as they move through. Basically, what has to happen is you have to have backstage systems that make those front stage interactions seamless and positive.
So what does that mean?
So that means you have to have good job descriptions. Everybody has to know what's expected of them, what their orientation needs to be, and you have to have the right people in the positions. You know, one of the things that we suggest that clients do is to administer a test called a Kolbe, K-O-L-B-E. It was developed by a psychologist named Kathy Kolbe, and it tests people for how they naturally take action. So are you a quick start, are you an implementer, are you a fact finder, or are you a follow through? So on those 4 dimensions, it's going to tell us how strong they are on those 4 dimensions. And there's specific types of scores on that thing that we're going to be looking for. We obviously want people who are strong on follow through.
Right.
We want strong fact finders because they've got to be able to understand at a deep level what the problem is so that they can dig in and solve it.
Right.
So it may be people you promote internally, it may be people you bring in from outside, but the first step is really to get the system in place that says this is what the system needs to be, this is what the roles and responsibilities of the people in those positions need to be. Then we have to figure out how we get the right people into those seats.
Okay.
And how you treat your representatives is going to feed into this also. Because if you're not treating your people well, then they're not going to treat your customers well. So we get into a situation where you end up looking at your own culture and you look at it hard. Because if you want that culture to exist with your customers, it has to exist internally with what we call the internal customers as well.
So how do you measure and monitor that? How do you set standards for it so that people know?
Well, you're going to measure and monitor in 2 ways. Number one, you're going to have a way for those customer service personnel to record interactions. What was the nature of the problem? And you want to make sure that they spec it out very clearly, because if they don't, if it's clear that they didn't understand the problem, they're not doing a good enough job of a Q&A with the customer to make sure they get all the details, right? Because that's a big part of their job, is to make sure, okay, I need this. Well, so you need to ask the right questions and have the right kind of interaction to understand exactly what the problem is and exactly what the expected outcome is. Now, you may not be able to deliver that expected outcome, but you've got to understand it. We want to see documentation that they really did understand at a deep level what the problem they needed to solve was. We're getting to more of a division of labor. So the customer service people are doing the problem solving. We're taking that out of the hands of the salespeople. Even a lot of the order taking you can take out of the hands of the salespeople. So the salespeople really are in the job of selling. And so that there's a clearer division of labor. One of the things we see, because when we go in phase 1, and we don't just survey the customers, we survey the salespeople, we survey the customer service people. One of the questions we ask is a standard measure of work stress, which is how much of the time do you feel you have too much to do in the time available. We're seeing pretty high level responses to that. Now, we're also hearing the company go, I don't get that, they don't have that much to do. Well, I think that the underlying reason that there's this disconnect between what the company thinks is going on with the salespeople and the customer service people and what we're seeing in their perceptions is that there isn't a clear division of labor. Everybody's, particularly the salespeople, trying to do a lot of different kinds of things, and because there's not a clear division of labor, because there's not a lot of specialization, they do feel stressed because they're not always clear on what their role's supposed to be.
Or they're trying to do all the roles.
Or they're trying to do everything, or they don't have clear priorities. All of those things come into play. And so it's when we bring those data to the company, a lot of times they're like, what do you mean? Like, how can they be stressed like this? And it's not stress in the sense that they're just completely overburdened, but it's stress in the sense that we don't have a good system in place to make them more effective.